Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Rotary Eclub of 3310. This discussion panel is hosted by the Rotary Eclub of 3310. It is my pleasure this afternoon to be able to talk about becoming a global citizen. What does that all mean to each one of us? I have a distinguished and wonderful learned panelist. And first of all, I'd like to introduce the first person on the panel. He is my very good friend, Dr. Ernest Chen.
Hello,
Dr. Ernest Chen is the author as well as trainer of public speaking. He's the incumbent district governor of Toastmasters International. Ernest Chen, in his varied career, long time in the service of the public as well as private sector, he was once the executive secretary of YMCA of Singapore. Because of his public service desire to contribute back to society, the government of Singapore recognized him not once, but twice. The first one was the PBM, or the Public Service Medal, and the other one is the BBM, which is the Public Service Star. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ernest Chen.
Thank you. Hello. Do you want me to say something or no need?
Yes.
Yes, say everything already. Good enough.
Okay, thank you. The other panelist is, of course, the founder of World Speech Day. His name is Mr. Simon Gibson. Simon Gibson is an accomplished writer as well as a wonderful novelist. His work has been published, and both in terms of its books as well as documentary script, which have actually received recognitions and won prizes in UK as well as internationally. Simon, of course, is a very experienced script writer, and he has written on behalf of many MNC multinational companies in the world. Simon, would you like to add a few more words?
Yes. Hello, everybody. And first of all, thank you very much to Singapore, to the panel, and to Rotary for hosting this panel discussion. I suppose I believe that right now civilization is at a crossroads. We can either choose to become more isolationist, or we can choose to become more coherent and more global. And clearly, I believe that the path forward is to become more interconnected, to become more global, to become world citizens, and to understand that term better. So I'm looking forward to all the contributions that come forward, but most of all, for this panel to be seen as a sort of launch pad, really, for others to involve themselves in the discussion. As wise as my fellow panelists are, we're not really here to provide answers so much as to start the conversation going, to get more people involved, to get more people to think about world citizenship for themselves in their own part, and to see how that can be taken forward. So a great pleasure to be included and to be asked to be part of this, and I really look forward to your comments in the fullness over the next hour.
Thank you, Simon. Last but not least is my good friend, whom I affectionately call Professor Ching Kwock. Ching Kwock is, of course, a fellow Rotarian. He's a past president of Rotary Eclub of 3310. He was a Colombo Plan Scholar, which means he's quite knowledgeable, and he was actually a former academia. Ching Kwock will be leading us in World Speech Day Singapore as the organizing chair in 2021. Ching Kwock, would you like to say a few more words?
Hello. It is indeed a great pleasure to be here in this panel. As Ban Seng has introduced, I am a Rotarian and I have been in the academia. Right now, what I'm busy about is to help Rotary in Singapore to establish a Rotary Learning Institute. So my passion is in education. And Today in the panel, I'm going to focus more on how education can help bring about more global citizens.
Thank you, Kwock. The subject is becoming a global citizen. I like to say that, first of all, because I'm a Rotarian, I always think that I always think that I am a citizen of the world. So it's a second nature to me, being when we talk about global citizen. I just want to say this, that we're going to use the word interchangeably when we talk about citizens of the world, world citizens, and global citizen. They are, in my mind, similar and interchangeable. Before we begin this particular afternoon session on panel discussion, I think it is good for me to remind the panelists especially, that we will not talk about race, religion, or politics. With that reminder, I think we can begin our afternoon session. The word world global citizen, world or global citizen, what does it really mean to each and every one of us, especially the three panelists? Would you like to give us your comment, and especially what are the values that are attached to this expression, global citizen, world citizen, or citizens of the world? Can I ask from Ernest Chen, please?
Well, thank you very much, Ban Seng. I suppose we are all involved and also involved in the World Speech Day. When you have the word world, we must embrace the value of the worldly nature. Global citizens or world citizens, they are all the same. I believe that if one has to be a global citizen, one must encompasses the value, social value, economic value in a person. Nowadays, we live in a very diverse world, diverse society, at the same time, diverse nature. We cannot miss meeting people from other countries. And now with the budget airlines going in crazy ways and bringing people from other parts of the world to come to Singapore, my country. And we, Singaporeans, also travel around the world to see how people live in other countries. All this interaction can bring us closer together and make the world smaller and more compact. We see how people live in different countries. We see how poor people live in the underdeveloped countries. And we see how rich nations live in their countries. Why there is such a great discrepancy and inequitable value systems? So that is the reason that gives rise to conflict. People from the other developed countries will say, the world is not fair. We are human beings. Why should we have such a great discrepancy? How can the rich help the poor? I believe in the world today, there are many humanitarian societies. There are many social organizations that advocate helping the least developed countries. I support this notion. I support that we should help the people who have not. Personally, I'm very much a global citizen. When I traveled to Australia for my undergraduate study when I was 17 years old, I stayed there for a number of years, worked down there, and I mixed with Australians. At the same time, in my universities, I also mixed with the people from other countries. I understand their value system. But of course, at that moment in time, we were young. We didn't have much experience. Our minds were very focused on our studies and in a fun way. We only enjoy the fellowship, but we never see beyond that. Later on, in my social organization, by the way, I also, worked as a board member of YMCA for 38 years. So while working with YMCA, we have the opportunity to go through the underdeveloped country to see how people live, and we advocate helping those people. So before my postgraduate studies, I went to the States, and I also lived there for a couple of years, and I see how people live in the States. So my dear friends, we cannot help it but embrace the value of the world, and we have to make ourselves world citizens. By traveling around the world, by working with them, by talking with them, we can change the world, we can make the world better, and most important thing, minimize the conflict so the world will be at peace. Nowadays, a lot of people are talking about World War III. If World War III ever comes around, I think that will be the end of the world. We don't want to see that. But if we are world citizens, there won't be any World War III because we belong to one nation called planet Earth. Definitely, there won't be World War III. If we are the individual citizens of each country, yes, you can be. But the conflict arises, definitely you support your own country. Then, inevitably, war will start. Of course, we all talk about China-US conflict. I believe that there won't be any World War III. It's only war of words. War of words. I believe that ultimately people believe peace is more important. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my view about world citizenship. I hope that my fellow panelists can add value on and advocate world citizenship. And at the same time, I welcome any questions, any comment from the audience so that we can also add value to what you're believing in. Back to you, Mr. Chairman. Ban Seng.
Thank you. For those who want to put any comment, again, as I said, you can put it down on the Facebook or on the YouTube, and we will see if we can have the time to possibly address some of those questions. Ernest Chen, you have just said that the world has become smaller because travel through budget airlines has made things so much easier. Yes, it is true, but that was pre-COVID-19. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, a lot of airlines are going bust. In fact, most of the budget airlines have gone bust. Those that are survived, even the mainliners, have to be bailed out by the government. So Simon, since you are from UK, can you share with us your thought about global citizen? What are the values that embody global citizenship, especially post-COVID-19?
Yes. Well, of course, right now, sadly, people all over the world, in every community, in every society, at every level, are under threat. And there's a palpable sense of that threat everywhere. But at the same time, I think it gives that threat gives us a greater sense that we're all part of a common humanity. And I feel that's a very uplifting thought, that we all share in humanity. We're all part of the same group, if you like. And so therefore, naturally, we are all world citizens. We can be no other thing other than to be a world citizen. And right now, what we need to do is to understand that and to bring that idea to life, to understand it better and to promote it. So far, I think we've allowed ourselves to have the notion that world citizenship is to be part of a group, to be part of a community. And I feel very passionately that world citizenship is an individual thing. As I think I'll state later, it really comes down to a state of mind. And so therefore, it's up to each of us as individuals to come together and to understand how we can take it forward, each person for themselves. And one of the things that I think we've learned over the past few years is that businesses and technology are very good at being global. Brands become global, technology connects businesses and operations all over the world. And it's now time for us to use those techniques to become more global as people, and to reach out, to use the new technologies, to share and to connect. And above all, I think we need to start to understand the values that are part of world citizenship. As Ernest has said, if we're confronted with conflict, surely the best way forward is to be about cooperation and sharing, and to celebrate the values that I think go with world citizenship of peace, compassion, understanding, openness. Those values are not only what's going to take us out of the threat of COVID-19, but also are the values that are going to be able to give us strength to handle the economic aftermath, the economic tsunami, which is coming our way in terms of the effect of COVID-19 on societies around the world. And we need to be more resilient. We will, I'm sure, in the days to come, need to become even more aware of our global citizenship to withstand these difficult times ahead. There will be a great, as I think I said earlier, a great temptation to become more isolationist, to look after ourselves, to look after our own individual countries in the face of greater competition, perhaps. And I feel that we should not go down that path. We should become more global, more coherent, and more cooperative. We should celebrate our interconnectedness. And that is what's going to take us forward and to give us strength. I'm often reminded of that old-fashioned word, hospitality, which I think the notion of that hospitality began largely in Europe anyway, in the plague years, when so many people were worried about people that they came across and the threat of strangers. And I think we need to bring that word hospitality back out into the open, and to encourage and to be kind and to share and to look on other people as ourselves, and to wish to help others as we would go forward ourselves. So world citizenship for me is a response to so many things that have gone on under COVID and also beforehand, and a response to bring the world together and to give ourselves a new opportunity to go forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Now I'd like to call upon my fellow Rotarian who can share with us world citizenship from a Rotary perspective. Kwock, would you like to add on?
Yes, certainly. I would like to address this question, what world citizenship means from a perspective of the Rotarian. So what does global citizenship mean to Rotary? Here I would like to quote the vision statement of Rotary. It states, "Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves." In other words, a global citizen is a person who sees things from a worldwide viewpoint and not just from the viewpoint of their own local community or their own country. Global citizens look at what is good for the world first, and then consider the needs of their own country or their own situation. Now let me share what Rotary is about and illustrate how Rotary creates a community of global citizens. Rotary is a global humanitarian organization of 1.2 million community leaders worldwide committed to making the world a better place. In 1985, Rotary launched its Polio Plus program, and it is the first initiative to tackle global polio eradication through the mass vaccination of children. Rotary has since contributed $1.2 billion in countless volunteer hours to protect some 2 billion children against the polio virus. And for the past 100 years, the Rotary Foundation has been turning humanitarian projects, ideas into reality. As a matter of fact, Rotary's programs are developing the next generation of leaders, providing funding to make the world a better place and making peace a priority. For example, Rotary Youth Exchange builds peace one young person at a time. Students learn a new language, discover another culture, and try and truly become global citizens. We have interactors, we have Rotaractors in the Rotary family, and these are the young people, typically at the age from about 15 years old up to 30 years old. They join the Rotary family to learn to be a global citizen. And to answer the question, what are values that underpin world citizenship? In my mind, I think a citizen of the world or global citizen should be someone who is aware of the wider world and has a sense of their own role as a world citizen, who respects and values diversity, has an understanding of how the world works economically, politically, socially, culturally, technologically, and environmentally, who is outraged by social injustice, who participates and contributes to the community at a range of levels from local to global, and who is willing to act to make the world a more sustainable place, and who takes responsibility for their actions. This, to me, are the values I believe underpins this category of people we call global citizens or global citizens of the world. Back to you.
Thank you. Well, we all come from different backgrounds. I just wonder how we together can encourage global citizenship, how we can promote and bring people into the fold, and what are the tools available today that we can use. Ernest Chen.
Well, the world is getting smaller. We can step out of our own home, step out of our own country, and then go to another country without least difficulties. But it's very important, each and every one of us must be self-aware of who you are, and at the same time aware of others, who they are. These are the two very basic qualities in order to promote global citizenship. Self-awareness and awareness of others, plus cultural empathy. Intercultural communications is very important. You see, we don't learn this in school, but you learn in workplace. You learn by attending classes. I used to teach intercultural communication. I teach corporate people to speak the right language in order to link up with the people from different countries and can start the business with them. If you speak wrongly, at the same time, you don't understand them, they don't understand you, there's no communication, there is no business, and there's no connection. When there's no connection, you cannot trade, you cannot have economic cooperation. At the same time, you have no social cooperation. So in order for us to understand people, we must embrace the skill of intercultural communication. I call it cultural empathy. So the moment you're aware of yourself, where you come from, and why you want to promote world citizenship, and you're aware of other people, why they cannot see you, and how you can make them see you and understand you. So with your culture empathy, that is the value that you have. You can promote them, bring them in, and understand. Nowadays, I believe that in the universities, you can see people from different parts of the world come to the campus. They can discuss freely. If you go to Harvard University, you can see a diverse people from different nations. You can see countries, 100 countries, they converge in Harvard because Harvard is considered a top-notch university, and people want to go there to learn, and they have a freedom of expression. So this is a way of cultural awareness, a way of self-awareness. And people like Singaporeans who go to Harvard, they not only meet the people from America, they meet the people from Africa, from Australia, from other part of Asia, from Europe. So this is open up the whole world. At the same time, I believe that when they return back to your own country, you will understand how the people from different countries work. So I call on people to understand intercultural communication and understand the cultural values of different countries. In this way, I believe that we can promote world citizenship. At the same time, we are closer to one group, one world, at the same time, one earth. Back to you, Ban Seng.
Thank you, Ernest. I think Simon will have a lot more to add to what Ernest have just shared. Simon, would you like to share with us your thoughts, your wonderful thoughts of the world as you see it?
Well, I don't know if they're wonderful thoughts, but anyway, I'll share my thoughts with you, BS, with great pleasure. I think one of the strange things is the paradox that we face, that today we have communications technology, the internet, social media that gives us the feeling that we're connected. It's so easy for us to communicate and to be in touch with what we think are other people around the world. But I think the mere fact that these things are so easy has in a sense, blinded us to their true possibility to connect. And so I think we need to make far greater use of the tools that are available now in terms of internet and social media, and to really bring them to life. One of the things that has struck me in recent weeks is that classrooms all over the world have been closed. Children have had to learn, particularly in the UK. I don't know so much abroad, but anyway, I suspect it's the same story abroad. That they've had to learn from home. They've not been allowed to go into school. And I've been struck by the remarkable resilience of schools and teachers and educators all over the world, that instead of allowing this to halt education, they've tried to find ways to continue to bring education live to people. And I think that's been a great success story. And it's shown the way for schools to use technologies such as we are now, live streaming, Zoom, Google Hangouts, all sorts of other media, to connect the classroom to the school children. And so that's an example of where there was the technology there already available, but actually we didn't really properly use it. And now we have an opportunity to use it, and we have a new opportunity to go forward to use these live streaming and Zoom techniques to connect. And so I think we can see great opportunities coming out of this dilemma, and we can find new ways to become world citizens. But we have to take it now. Now is the time that we have to make the most important decisions, and therefore we need to use these opportunities to become more global, to become more interdependent, to become more of a world citizen, and to understand that increasingly. And I just want to think forward to my own experience with World Speech Day, which started out just as a simple idea that speech has changed the world. They can bring communities together so that it would be a great fun project to see how that idea could develop. And so we started, and I remember early conversations with with Ernest about bringing this idea to life. And we started with just a small group of people, and that grew. And the first year, I think we had events in 30 nations, and then that grew. And now we have World Speech Day events in over 100 countries around the world. And that all grew not out of any economic or business gain, but simply by sharing ideas, by wanting to grow a global community and to allow speeches to be shared. So it can happen. We can all make a difference on this. World Speech Day is a simple example of the way that we can use the power of speech to reach out. And I hope that World Speech Day will grow and grow and grow, not just in terms of the number of countries to get involved, but grow into the breadth and depth of our communities, so that we'll have more schools and universities and public speaking groups and all sorts of people involved, such that we can develop and grow the World Speech Day idea. I firmly believe that speeches are one way to get together, and so I hope that more people will see the value of that and want to join in our discussions. Thank you. I probably talked too long.
One thing that I remember, Simon, you were saying that instead of just public speeches about your cause that you actually have a passion in, perhaps one could actually introduce national debates. Would you like to say a little bit about national debates?
Well, as part of this World Citizen Initiative, which World Speech Day is involved in at the moment, we are trying to connect schools and to try and connect communities to come together and to talk more. I've long been of the opinion that we could have more events in local communities around the world and to create a national debate across, say, UK or whatever, to better understand ideas, and then to share that in what we're setting up as a global debate, where the issues of leadership and governance and coherence will be discussed further, because this is now the time when we need to come together and do that. If we look at another pressing issue of climate change, the only way out of climate change is global discussion and global understanding. We have to come together as a single humankind to resolve that issue and not blame other people for their lack of coherence on it. So these things only come through discussion, through debate, through understanding, because those are the things that break down the barriers and help us to go forward. So yes, they are vital, critical times, and we need to speak more and share more.
Thank you. Wherever there's any disagreement, we agree to disagree, right, Simon? So the next person I'd like to call upon to share with us about engaging youth and to bring them abroad to become global citizens. And what are the tools available? I'd like to call upon Professor Ching.
I want to follow up on what Simon said about the ample availability of modern tools, technologies, platforms such as World Speech Day, debate, and all this to create or to promote world citizenship. But I think, to be encouraging people to become world citizens, the availability of tools alone is not very helpful until the people want to use them. And I think the way to encourage world citizens should be through education. Education is the best way to bring people on board. And today, global citizenship is something that I think our young people must embrace authentically if they want to make a difference in the world. And we need an effective global citizenship education to teach students to move beyond a narrow circle in their local community to a place of broad understanding of what is going on in the world and why they should be global citizens or citizens of the world. And actually, the obstacles, the resistance is great. Today, there is a backlash against globalization that's growing in countries like the United Kingdoms, the United States. Global citizenship education is even more important than ever. While some critics of globalization raise legitimate concerns about the ethics of interventionism and the ability of global markets to deliver prosperity, others voice the darker thoughts about the place of immigrants, economic migrants, and refugees in their societies. Sure, globalization has undoubtedly increased economic inequality around the world, and this is an issue that global citizens must tackle head on. We should not give up the benefit of globalization, such as the greater cultural exchange, the open markets, and so on. And so, in this transitional political period, global citizenship education is a remedy for the growing antagonism towards a global society. That's how I think.
Thank you, Kwock. All of us have basically talked about what's really is global citizen, what are the values that we encompass, how can we engage these people and then bring them on. My next question, which I want to pose to you, which becomes a real challenge really, is what is the next step forward? What are the values? What are the ambition that we want to encourage of these people to become global citizen? Dr. Ernest Chen.
That is a very, very valid and good reason. The next step is to start from the basic education. In the school today, we have to educate them that we don't not only live in a cocoon, our own national school system. We have to open up, let them see what are the people doing outside Singapore. I'm talking in terms of Singapore. I believe the Singapore schools now is very much different. In fact, 20 years ago, the education system changed. During the school holidays, the school organized trips for the students to go overseas. What they call it, Singaporean students go and see and help the students of different nations. Many schools are engaging YMCA to ask them to organize some social community system in other countries. In fact, YMCA has brought the students from Singapore to Cambodia, to Vietnam, to Yunnan in China, and to all the villages in other countries. They stay in the village for 3 weeks and they build schools for the village so that it can leave a legacy, leave a, what they call it, a foundation for them, how they can build school, even though they're not builders, but they're just using some strengths, using some values to build the school and teach the school English. I know 3 weeks you can't go very much, but actually it's for the students in Singapore to communicate with the student in that village, so that the village people understand Singapore system, Singapore students understand the village system. So this is one way of spreading the news about global citizenship. If they study what they call it, community system, study global system, understand how people live in other parts of the world, if they don't experience it, it's no use at all. They had to get out of the school, in local school, and see for themselves. Personally, as a trainer, as a businessman, I travel around the world. I've seen how people behave, how people conduct business, and how they view other fellow human beings in their own ways is different. Because they must have the self-awareness and awareness of other people and have the cultural empathy. I remember I went to China in the 80s and I said, Ayo, this is the way they live. Cannot. At that moment in time, actually, I was wrong because that was the time that China had the revolution and the China was starting to change. But in the beginning of change, you don't see much thing. You only see the people coming out along the road. They walk around aimlessly. They just want to get out of their own home. And the value system have changed now. If you compare in the 80s and 90s. Since then, I've been to China. I see that it changed. The moment they open the door and let their own people to go out of the country and see, you know that China has given the world the most and the best tourism. Millions and millions of people get out of the country. So when they return back to the country, they change. See, when they change, they know. This is calling self-awareness. They're bringing something good from the other outside the country to the country. And people interact with them, they also change. And now, Chinese people view the people from outside China differently because they are begin to have awareness. They begin to have a cultural communication. And their businessmen also go around the world and see them. In the early years, the people in China, they like to bargain. Bargaining is the way of life. But now, they still do in the local level. But in the international level, they don't bargain anymore. They understand the system. So this is a way that you bring back the good value to your country and at the same time share the good value with your countries. And this is promote internationalization. Globalization is good and bad. When you talk about globalization, it's bad when you take in terms of economic advantage. Yes, I think it's terrible. Internationalization is also terrible because it imposes the cultural values of other people, which I disagree. You impose economic value on other people, which I disagree too. We should help share rather than imposition. So in this way, it can promote harmony. It can promote altruistic service and altruistic value so that we can live and let live and make the world a better place. As Ban Seng mentioned about globalization, yes. I remember in the early year when I was studying economics at University of Sydney, I mean, we talk about globalization, we talk about economic system. At that time, the value of economic system is totally different. It is win and take advantage or economic advantage imposed on other people. But now you see the syllabus have changed. It's a win-win situation, no more win-lose situations. So once we have win-win situation, we can promote globalization in a better perspective, and this will become a global citizenship for all of us. My dear friend, I think things have changed. We must move with the change and move better and move forward. This is my view.
Thank you, Ernest. Simon, would you like to add on what's the action plan for you if coming from United Kingdom? We'd like to hear from a different perspective.
Well, I think as Ernest touched on, schools are going to have a fundamental role in spreading this idea of exchange and connection. And I know that many schools in the UK are seeking to create new partnerships with other schools around the world. And certainly I've been approached by a number of schools and universities to facilitate connections. I can think of one example of a school in Buenos Aires connecting with a school in Florence, in Italy, and organizing exchange and speeches. And that's been a fascinating little germ of an idea that started, and I think will spread because there's enormous enthusiasm in young people, as we've discovered in World Speech Day activities, to share ideas and to learn about different cultures and different societies. So I think we're pushing on an open door there in terms of the desire of young people in schools to undertake further exchanges and partnerships. And I think that should be a kind of a common part of education now, that yes, we want education to lead towards better careers and better lives, but also to contribute towards greater understanding and greater global exchange. And I think that's a new dimension that we should encourage everywhere. Because we are going to face a backlash in terms of, already I've seen numerous articles in the UK press blaming globalization for COVID, that in some way that's been the kind of foundation for what has happened. And you can see why people would think that in difficult times and why they would blame globalization. But I think that it's an inevitable route forward, and that we need to harness it for good and not for partisan economic benefit. And the way that we harness it for good is to talk and discuss. And ultimately, whilst I take great pleasure in World Speech Day events, I also believe that it's what's discussed outside of such events that are important. So we can each evolve into world citizens in our discussions, in our talk, in our everyday lives, by embracing these new values. Well, I suppose they aren't new values, they are age-old values of compassion, understanding, sharing, hospitality, grace to strangers, and that sort of thing, because it's the way that we ultimately live and think and talk in our everyday activities that will affect change. So while schools and universities are a great starting point for so many of these actions, I think it's in the wider community that they will take hold, and that we need to press forward with our understandings of what global citizenship is.
Thank you, Simon. Kwock Wing, Ching Kwock Wing. Just now, Ernest was talking about service learning. Can you share with us, in the context of interactors and rotaractors, what we do as far as service learning and stuff that we can actually do to bring this forward to become global citizen?
Well, to bring this forward, I think there are two prongs. On the one hand, I think people who have already have the global mindset must take actions. Simon talked about global citizenship being a personal thing. Indeed, it's a personal belief, it's a personal value. And therefore, we should encourage people to take action. I think in Rotary, we have done a lot in encouraging our young. When they joined Rotary as interactors, rotaractors, we support them, we help them to have programs where they travel, they meet new people, they help the needy people in another nations. They have a much better understanding of the world, and yeah, they take action. Even though I think it is a little bit abstract to talk about global citizenship, but I think the kind of action that a global citizen can take is simply in these three aspects: a concern for social justice, a concern for the rights of people, and a concern for cultural conflicts. So I think today Rotary has done a lot to make a difference just by encouraging our young Rotaractors and directors to take an active role with regard to these three key aspects. And the other is, well, we need more and more global citizens. And the only way that we can get more and more citizens is, I think I'll share with Simon also, that it is important to educate the young people to become world citizens. And we want, because the young people are the future global citizens. And if we don't want them to become the international elites, the cosmopolitans who are ruthless, uncommitted elites. So to become effective global citizens, our young people need to be flexible, creative, proactive, and they need to be able to solve problems, make decisions, think critically, communicate ideas effectively, and work well within teams and groups. These skills and attributes are increasingly important and recognized as essential to succeed in the 21st century life too, including the workplace. And in that front also, I would say the Rotary has done a lot to encourage, to help the young people to be flexible. We have programs, we have leadership programs for them to be flexible, to be creative, to be proactive. And so we help them to learn these important skills and qualities and develop them through the Rotary education system. Back to you, Ban Seng.
Thank you. I just want to add, as far as Rotary is concerned, because Rotary have a lot of programs, but three programs I thought I wanted to bring across to everybody in the context of a global citizen. In the area of youth, we have what we call the Youth Exchange Program. Youth Exchange Program is for anybody who's 15 to 19 years old. There are two types of a Youth Exchange Program. One is called a short term, which is basically from a few days to up to 3 months. And the other one is a long-term 1-year program. And in the 1-year long-term program, what happens is that we actually put the student into a school so that they can understand the educational system. In the youth exchange program, what happens is this, that somebody from one district, say Singapore, will go to another district, UK, and somebody from UK will come over to Singapore and in this exchange program. And what is the purpose and objective of this is, first of all, to teach them lifelong leadership skill, get them to understand the language, the culture, and the most important thing is to help them to become global citizen at a very young age. From my experience, knowing some of these young youth exchange students, they came back and now they are fantastic people in the society. And I think that this is something that we want to continue to encourage. The second program is what we call the GSE, which is the Group Study Exchange. Group Study Exchange is basically led by a very senior Rotarian and 4 non-professional, young professional of the age between 25 to 40. They are a non-Rotarian. They must not be a Rotarian, must not be coming from a Rotarian family as well. These are professional. They could be doctors, they could be accountant, engineers, or whatever. And they are young people who are just starting out and wanting to learn a little bit more. In the exchange program, is a bilateral program, so we could exchange a GST team from Brazil with, say, Malaysia, and the same way that they will basically return another group. This program lasts for about 4 weeks. And in the whole process, these people begin to understand first how the other countries in that particular profession actually operates. Similarly, when those people who come over back to this part of the world will also be able to appreciate. So there's a lot of cross-cultural exchanges, cross-cultural understanding that people are able to do it. And this will be for the young adults. Another and the final program I want to mention this afternoon is really what we call the Rotary Peace Fellowship. Rotary Peace Fellowship is only available for non-Rotarians and people who are not available, who are non-member of the Rotary families. In other words, it's out for the public and anybody can basically apply if they qualify. We award two types of scholarship for this. One is for people who wants to go for the master's program. We have 50 scholarship available. And then the other one is for the professional development certification course. And that's about 80 places available. The master's program will be about something like 15 months to 2 years. And the professional certificate course is up to a year. For the master's program, there are 5 universities that they can actually attend, one in UK, one in USA, one in Sweden, one in Australia and Japan. And for the professional development certificate, they have it in Uganda and of course, Bangkok, Thailand. So ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of programs we can actually take this forward. We can take action and really become involved in becoming a global citizen or citizens of the world. Can I have the whole panel back so that we can actually ask them to say, to give a final comment and to round up and a word of advice for people, young people especially, who wants to be global citizen. Can I start off with Ernest Chen, please?
Yes, you can be a world citizen if you embrace the value of social empathy, self-awareness, and awareness of other people. Becoming a global citizen is a way of thinking and a way how you see people. The moment you have this value, I believe you are on the way to be the world citizen. And the moment you're a world citizen, you can change the world and change yourself one by one, group by group. I think in this way, the world will be better off with more global citizens. Start with you.
Thank you. Ernest, Simon.
Yes, well, I suppose perhaps the great legacy of COVID-19 will be that it's taught us that we are all world citizens, that we all share our exposure to this threat. Nobody is beyond it, and therefore we are world citizens now. Now we can use that, we can take it forward, and we can better understand it. And the way to do that is not to leave it to organizations like the UN or UNICEF or great powers like that, as important as they are, but again, to bring it to life individually, to recognize that we as individuals are world citizens and that we as individuals can therefore do something about it in the way we lead our lives, in our values, in our compassion. So that's the way to do it, to understand that it's a state of mind, as Ernest says, it's for individuals to bring to life and individuals to take us forward, not to wait for others to do it for us, but to do it ourselves.
Thank you. Kwock, would you like to say a few last few words?
Yeah, I would like to address this from, again, the perspective of a Rotarian. Rotary is a framework for learning and helping nations in the world and their people to position themselves as part of the wider community. And the world community connects us, and together we aim to make our world better, fairer, and more sustainable. So my dream as a global citizen is that people will consider the health of the entire planet and to take action in their own communities and cities, that people will consider the impact of all the decisions that they make based on the impact on the entire world, and people will together make the world a better place than it currently is right now for all mankind. Rotary is certainly playing its parts to promote world citizenship, but that is not enough. I would like to see all nations in the world invest in the education of the young to be global citizens, making the teaching of global citizenship an integral part of the school curriculum.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think it can be part of a global curriculum, and that could only promote understanding and greater exchange. So that's something that we should argue for straight away.
Well, if we have a silver lining out of this current COVID-19 event, what would that be? For me, I would say is this: social distancing, stay home, stay safe, has been the motto that we have been hearing, right? We are very far apart, but yet we are very close together. If it was not because of COVID-19 today, Simon, I won't be talking to you like this. Ernest, I won't be talking to you like this. Kwock, I won't be talking to you like this. And so this is a wonderful thing about social media and the tools that are available in, with technology. So the world has become actually so much smaller, and we could just do whatever we want, and we just talk through the video, whatever video conferencing media that are available, and there are hundreds. So my friend, the world has actually become smaller, and we, fellow citizens of the world, we are a global citizen. Yes or no?
Absolutely, yeah.
Even though we are distancing, but our mind is closer.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have come to the end of our session. It's been a wonderful 1 hour that we have the opportunity to explore. I'm sure we can explore further, but let us come to, every good thing must come to an end. So I'd like to say goodbye to everybody and thank you very much for exchanging your thoughts. Bye.
Thank you.
See you again.
Bye-bye.